12:05 in the afternoon. You're listening to 90.3 FM on the radio dial, and every Wednesday, we hope that you're making a date to be with us for Helping Seniors of Brevard, the program for and about seniors. I'm John Harper. Let's introduce the host of the show, Kerry Fink, the host and executive director of Helping Seniors of Brevard. Good afternoon, Kerry.
Thank you, John Harper, and I hope your Wednesday is going well as well, and thank you for joining us right here on the radio as we get together every single Wednesday lunchtime, 12 noon on 90.3 FM, WEJF. Also, a welcome to those who are listening to us online at WEJF.net, and also to the world of listeners who join us via podcast, because every time we do one of our lunchtime get-togethers here on behalf of Helping Seniors of Brevard, we also put these out on our podcast. So you can find those every place you get podcasts, from Apple iTunes to Alexa to Spotify to iHeartRadio. And so we just want to welcome you and thank you for joining us. And today we have the privilege of having in the studio two of my very favorite people in the world who are also dedicated to all the work that Helping Seniors has done. I want to go ahead and get you guys right into the conversation. It's none other than Barbara McIntyre. She is our resident reverse mortgage expert, but I would really say at this point you're like expert on all things senior too.
Hey, well, that's quite the honor, boy, I'll tell you. Thank you, Kerry.
We got so much to talk about, and our other expert, we were just talking about even before before I would say the cameras rolled, but in this case it's the microphones rolled. It would be our registered nurse. You are the owner of Avid Home Care Services. You are an expert, and we found out last time you were on the radio that you are an author as well. I'm talking about Traci Graf with Avid Home Health Care. How you doing?
Good, thanks. Happy to be here.
Yeah, we're gonna have we have so much to cover today. We're actually gonna hit two different topics today. We are gonna talk about a date that I want you to grab a pencil and mark this down. It's June 15th. It is June 15th. That is the day for the 2022 World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things that you'll want to get involved with, but we're really going to talk about that too. Traci, in particular, I remember over the years, you've helped shine a light on some of the things that are very important in this particular topic anyway. And I want to even back it up one notch further, because you've even talked about things in the past. We've done TV programs where you've talked about senior mental health and different things like that. You have a large background in the everything that we've talked about from the standpoint of issues that seniors hit, and this elder abuse awareness thing is really almost becoming an epidemic, I would think.
Yeah, I think it's really terrifying, honestly. There are so many different types of abuse that we see nowadays. Yeah. And, you know, some of them are obvious. Some of them are not so obvious. And some of them, there's nobody to notice it.
Right.
Or report it.
Right.
Or recognize that it's abuse.
Right.
And that's a very common one, especially in the senior population.
Yeah.
Self-neglect is a serious form of what's considered abuse. And that's a really tough one to deal with here, and we deal with it very frequently.
Yeah, I was going to say, so the premise, so we're going to talk about two things today. We're going to talk about World Elder Abuse Awareness Day and some of the things that you may want to get involved with. Again, it's that happens on June 15th. So there's going to be several things that you probably going to want to be involved with. There's a big community fair that happens out at the Wickham Park Senior Center on Wednesday, June 15th, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. We're going to talk about that. And then our other topic today, which I think is probably somewhat linked in or at least related to this, we're going to talk about ways that you can stay safely at home. You know, for those of you that have been following Helping Seniors for any amount of time, maybe you picked up a copy of Senior Scene magazine. That's that free publication available at over 500 locations throughout Brevard County. It has a readership of more than 35,000 readers per month. And we have published in the center section of that our Helping Seniors newsletter for almost as long as It's been since Joe Steckler, our president and founder, got the whole organization going. And it's our way of getting information out into the community. And if you've been following that, you know that this year we set our theme to be helping you get your ducks in a row. And what we mean by that is something that Joe Steckler talks about called getting your aging plan together. And what that is about is trying to get set up so that you have at least thought through issues that you might confront along your journey as a senior. And so that even though it does, like a hurricane plan, we don't want a hurricane to hit here, but we want to be ready and have thought through what we would do if they told us it was going to make landfall here. And the same thing is what we want to do as it comes to how we talk about preparing for senior years. So what we have done this year is we've already covered along the way, and all these things, by the way, are archived at helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. So one of our first themes was we were talking about let's talk legal. And so we had some of the best elder law attorney minds come in and talk to us about different documents that you really do want to make sure that you have in order, because that's all part of your aging plan. And then the next month we said, let's talk financial. And so we had some really good advice coming in from certified financial planners who were telling us about 5 different things that you might want to do to check up where you are and make sure that you've got those in your plan. We had some advice from folks that are experts on the timing and how you get a hold of Social Security. Apparently there's a lot to that we don't first think about. It's like, do you have other income? And there's all these dynamics go into it. So they spent some time covering that. Then this month, we're on the topic of how do you stay home safely. So if you get your May issue of Senior Scene magazine, you'll see that the whole topic is devoted to staying at home safely. And I really thought also, Barb and Traci, this is a great thing for us to talk about because you two guys are really kind of critical in the planning to be able to do that. Barb, you as a reverse mortgage expert, you understand how to help people finance that so that they can be home safe and that they can get the help that they might need as they go along. And then, Traci, from your perspective, you're able to make that ability to stay home safe as it can be.
Yes. I want to jump right in and ask Barbara a question because it comes to mind right away as you're saying something that, real life.
Sure.
So I've mentioned it to a couple of clients who are maybe a little overly concerned about their finances. And, I don't really know. I've brought it up to them. I've suggested that they talk to you. And I've told them who you were. I've told them, the things that we typically feel about helping seniors members. They're trustworthy. They've gone through Joe's sort of, vetting process.
Right.
Approval process.
Right.
And yet I still find reluctance for people. Like they look at you like reverse mortgage.
Right.
And I'm trying.
Yes.
To help a couple of them.
Right.
Who absolutely need the help.
So Traci, one thing I would say is that if they're concerned about picking up the phone and for fear that once I know who they are, I might continue to bug them, or I would be more than glad to mail them something to just give them a simple introduction that just comes in the mail. I mean, I guess I'd have to know their address to give that to them. But, you know me, and so you can only tell them that I am just an information giver, first and foremost.
I have tried that, and it just seems like the whole reverse mortgage concept.
It is. It's
for some people is just
scares them to death.
Yeah, like it's like I've said something that
right.
they look at me like,
yeah, why
what?
Would you
Should I just jump off the balcony of my condo? Give my whole house to the government?
So some people,
relax.
people, if you say to them what the product is really called, which is a home equity conversion mortgage.
Okay.
Not a reverse mortgage, that's a nickname. It's really called the home equity conversion mortgage. That's its name. We just nicknamed it reverse because it works in reverse. Instead of you making a payment, the mortgage gives you a payment. So that's how the ultimate use of home equity conversion mortgage came along, because people then started saying, oh, well, let me look into that. And then as they started learning about it, they went, well, is this the same as the reverse mortgage? And then you'd say, well, actually, yes. It's just that it's always really been called, its name is really home equity conversion mortgage. The other thing is, if that client does have a computer and they are at all computer savvy, send them to my website. There's a couple of things on my website. There's one called I think it's called the Heck'em Challenge. And what it is it's a group of people sitting at a table, and there's a board, and they go through an education that then they are asked, if you could do this, put your little sticky on each side of the board. If you would have it, if it was this way. So at the end of this question and answer, when they take off the top of the board, what they find out is the product they would have chosen was the line of credit of a reverse mortgage, not the line of credit from the bank. And they all go, what? It's so the website I have is filled with the information that helps them get there on their own.
I don't think we've ever talked about your website.
Can we give that? Can we give that website?
Yes, we can. Yes, we sure can. So,
Okay.
But that website is just filled with and it's filled with information that can either be along the lines of the financial advisor channel, which really does talk about growth of line of credit and strategic use, or just the line of credit in real basic terms. So a novice homeowner can say, well, why would I do a bank's home equity line of credit when I could have a reverse mortgage line of credit and it'll grow and it'll do all these other things? So I think that's probably the best way to ease them into it.
I'm going to make sure that we put that web link on our Facebook page and get it out on our social media, and we'll give it out here on the radio as well. While we're talking about that, I thought, Traci, the question you brought up is so important because it really speaks to the heart of this. I remember when I first met Barb McIntyre many years ago now, because she's been a long-term trusted friend of helping seniors, must be the better part of 10 years by now. Mm-hmm. And she really was challenged to have Joe Steckler understand a reverse mortgage, because Joe is the most fearless fighter on behalf of seniors that you would ever you would not want to encounter him on that level.
On the other side.
You would not want to be on the other side of that.
I agree.
Right, because Joe is serious about making sure we look after our seniors in this county. And so one of the points, though, was that he really came with some of those same kind of maybe preconceptions or notions that somehow this was shady or tricky or some way to get your house. And Barb really had to walk him through that. Not once, not twice, but probably 3 or 4 times. And he finally started to get that. But Barb, I really wanted to just ask you, where did all that bad press, maybe if we just kind of like shine some light, what happened that gave your industry that reputation all those years ago? Now, I know it's not that anymore, but it had to start, smoke and fire somewhere.
Right. Well, in reality, years and years and years ago, when the reverse mortgage started, it was in Europe.
Okay.
In England.
Okay.
And the original reverse mortgages had something called shared appreciation.
Oh.
And when the mortgage was due and payable, when it came due and payable, what also happened was the appreciation that had occurred on the property had to also be shared with the lender.
So they were really like a co-owner of your house. In a way,
that was what happened. But
so I think that's a lot of what I hear a lot of them saying is, oh no, they'll take my house.
But that never existed in anything that originated in this country. It never was part of that program. It never was part of the Fannie Mae Homekeeper, which was another reverse mortgage that was issued in this country, and it never existed in the FHA product Ronald Reagan put into place, the FHA HECM. And so it was just lack of understanding, lack of knowledge. It was just never the case. The FHA insurance that has always been in place in the HECM always had what we call non-recourse feature, that the mortgage insurance premium paid the lender any difference if the property was upside down. Now, when a homeowner loses a property, it is because the homeowner has not met their obligation. Their only obligation is to pay property taxes and homeowners insurance. Not doing that creates a maturity event, but that's the same thing as if you have a conventional loan.
I was going to say, even if their home is paid off, they still have to pay property taxes.
Exactly. And if you don't pay homeowners insurance, it's going to be forced placed.
Right.
But in this loan, you're never making payments.
Right.
So if you have no option for forced placed because you're not paying for it. So in a reverse mortgage, because if the home burns to the ground and that lender can only be repaid by the value of the home ever, know what? You could win the lottery, but only the house is going to be held to repay the debt. Then the lender has no way to be repaid unless they take the house.
So
only when the borrower defaults.
So let's say the scenario is the house is paid off. And how long does that process really take to get that ball rolling and get those kind of finances available to someone?
Well, now, because more people are doing this mortgage, and right now appraisals are taking a long time. We used to be able to say start to finish 30 days. Nowadays we're saying more like 60, but just because of delays for, the counseling, because this product also requires that borrowers participate in a third-party counseling session to make sure they fully understand their obligations. So it's even got more protections for the consumer to make sure that whoever originated the loan, someone like me, really taught that borrower every single obligation the borrower might have. So you don't go, it's rare to have a borrower start in this process without having a real good understanding. Very rare, because if the originator, we talk about fraud, let's talk about that. If a borrower is starting down the path of some type of senility, if I don't pick up on that, the third-party counseling is going to certainly see that there might be an issue. And then a title closing, it's very difficult to really get someone involved in this process and then actually close a loan and not realize that maybe they don't have the capacity to understand what they're doing. So that's, again, consumer protections to protect the borrower.
We had the privilege of Bill Johnson, who's a board-certified elder law attorney. He's been a partner with the Helping Seniors organization. Again, he kind of goes way back, even when Joe was doing Brevard Alzheimer's. But we did a show that was fascinating. It was the show before last. And listener, if you didn't get to hear it, we archive everything. So you can go back, find the podcast. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on Facebook. But it was about homestead protections in Florida. And we were having a real discussion. I learned things. Nancy was here in the studio talking about Nancy Deerdorf, our operations director. She supervises everything with the Helping Seniors Senior Information Line. And we both were saying after that show, we learned stuff we didn't know. And he there was a list. I can't enumerate all of them. He said there's only five ways you can lose your home in Florida. And if it's your homestead. And clearly one was you don't pay your mortgage. Number two was you don't pay your property taxes. And there were a couple other special things, but his point, what he was trying to say is your home affords you protections that are really pretty generous to us as homeowners in Florida, that you have some other debts or things like that, they can't come after your home. And so there was a lot of things and nuances we need to be aware of. But I was thinking about that, Barbara McIntyre, when you were talking a moment ago about the fear that people have about reverse mortgages, because those things where, quote, they would come and take your home, are the same things that would still apply even if you didn't have a reverse mortgage. You don't pay your taxes, your house burns down, you didn't pay your insurance, you're still going to have to find another place to live, right?
Exactly. And I get very nervous when a 70-year-old, fully retired on a fixed income, needs funds to do some of these things we're talking about, and they
Yes.
go take out a mortgage.
Now they
that
gotta make
might
a
be-
payment.
Now they have the obligation to make a monthly payment, and if something happens and they don't make the payment, they absolutely are at risk of foreclosure. So to me, that is a risk that they didn't have to take, and they shouldn't have gone down the path of taking that mortgage without at least being introduced to the reverse
The option of doing that. Right.
Absolutely. I think that's very wrong that they aren't told that they have another mortgage option that they should look at.
Do you think part of the reticence? It was funny. I was literally having a meeting yesterday afternoon over with Rachel McLean over at the law office of Amy B. Van Fossen, because she does a lot of case management. And there was a couple of things we were talking about there. And she, in the course of the conversation, she mentioned she goes, we have a sign that's out there in the lobby. And she says, Amy Van Fossen always laughs about it. She's the lead attorney there and has a team of like 4 or 5 attorneys. And she goes, the sign basically says, if there's a will, I want in it. Oh. and so my question to you is, does maybe some of the negative reputation for the reverse mortgage come from the potential beneficiaries of somebody's will saying like, oh, Mom, you don't want that because, whatever reason they give, but the underlying reason is if there's a will, I want in it.
Well, and just so I understand, what would happen, right, is that if the home is paid off and say they did get the reverse mortgage and say after a year they passed away, what happens? Out of the sale of the house, the amount that goes back to the mortgage company comes out of the sale of the house. The rest goes to the family?
Yep, that's exactly what happens.
Okay.
So
to make sure I understand it.
Yeah, so a responsible loan originator, someone like me, when I'm talking to that borrower, homeowner, I would inquire, because I always do anyway, do you have your documents in order? Do you have, if there's 2 homeowners, do you have your powers of attorney for each other? Do you have your, documents to pass the property to your heirs? Very important.
So many people are unprepared.
And then,
I meet people who think they're prepared and they're unprepared.
Right. And then whatever you borrow when you pass, that's what happens. The loan is paid off and those funds, and oftentimes they use the benefit of an enhanced life estate or a ladybird deed so they can avoid, if they don't have other assets, they avoid probate altogether.
So many good things. We're going to continue this conversation after the mid-show break. We're talking with Barb McIntyre, reverse mortgage expert, and also Traci Graf with Avid Home Care. We'll be right back. Stick around.
12:33 in the afternoon is our time now on this Wednesday. You're listening to Helping Seniors of Brevard, the program heard every Wednesday, 12 noon to 1 o'clock, right here on 90.3 FM. And we'll get back to more of our program with Barbara hosting. Barbara, you're on the air.
Oops. Well, hello. I'm sorry. We're just talking away.
We're having a great
Never mind
conversation.
us having a radio show here. But Kerry Fink, go ahead and take it.
Yes, I'll jump in. What a great spot for me to jump in. All right, so I'm Kerry Fink with the Helping Seniors of Brevard organization on behalf of Joe Steckler, our president and founder. Welcome to the already in progress second half of our radio show. I'm laughing, but we're really talking about some very serious things, because in the studio today with us, we have Barbara McIntyre, who may need no introduction at this point. She is the reverse mortgage expert with reverse mortgage funding and longtime friend of the Helping Seniors organization, and also so pleased to have in the studio with us another longtime friend of Helping Seniors, Traci Graf. She's a registered nurse, but she's also the owner of Avid Home Care Services. And what we've really been talking about, since we've been talking about why people are, I guess, averse to considering a reverse mortgage. Are you averse to reverse? Yeah, I don't know. But really, there's challenges, because, Traci, you see this in the work that you do. You go to families' homes, and you really, because the theme that we're after is how to stay at home safely this month. Right. And you see where somebody may be sacrificing the help that they need at home because they don't have the resources otherwise liquid cash to be able, since a lot of this is private pay, and yet the challenge is they have plenty of equity in the home, but they're a little bit afraid. Maybe they heard bad stories about reverse mortgages, or, hey, I'm trying to save that for my kids, and then they're kind of destroying their own quality of life chasing after something like that. And we were literally during the break, to put it bluntly, there were some horror stories that were coming out, and it's a real challenge. And I know you see that every day, Traci.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and it's part of, I don't know how to say this. It's part of the good and the bad thing of that I do my own assessments, my initial assessment on when someone calls us for services. Most agencies send out a nurse to come and do an assessment and fill out the paperwork.
Right.
I'm the nurse that comes
for
Avid. And I mean, I've continued to do that as much as we've grown, and I want to continue to keep that commitment as long as I can, because that's the part of home care that I've always liked. So I like that part of it. But I also know that I have acquired a toolbox of resources that many times when I walk in the home, it's really not, my service is not the only thing they need.
Right.
Or they need more help that they can afford. So by partnering with other resources, like hospice or skilled nursing care or something like that can help sort of, take some of the weight off of us or family, then that also works too. But it's, I think that, the fact that I'm the one that goes, sometimes that's, like I said, it's good and bad. I mean, people may need more care than they're willing to pay for. People may need more care than they can afford to pay for. It's sometimes very obvious when you walk into someone's home.
Right.
That they're not going to be able to afford much help, and that we're going to have to be real creative with scheduling and keeping their times low, and I mean that's part of why we're different with the no hourly minimum and making things, because I do believe in my heart that everyone deserves that kind of care.
Yeah, I have seen you go out of your way to try to make situations work for people the best you can, and yet at the end of the day you still have business. You have to pay the people that are working with you, and it's a tough challenge. But I have really seen you try to excel at being a good resource at that.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that bothers me the most is when people will take the risk for safety to save a few bucks.
Yeah.
And I hear people say to me, well, it's what I have to do. And my response is, I understand that. On the flip side, I could tell them right off the top of my head 10 horrific stories of private caregivers that have gone wrong.
Yeah.
And it's something that I'm constantly talking, out about, so that people understand that this is a real serious risk you're taking. And you're talking about elder abuse.
Yeah. That's a good point. We probably should be transitioning into, because we said the other thing we wanted to cover today was World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, and talk a little bit about that.
Right.
Before we get there, though, I just want to make sure people know how to reach each of you from the standpoint, like I said, we've been talking about Avid Home Care Services, and one of the benefits you get when you call and talk with Traci is just the fact that you're getting somebody who, number one, cares, and number two, is going to try to find or think of ways that are going to benefit you. And what you said, Traci, is really the heart of what Joe has always tried to foster inside of helping seniors, is we need a network of reliable people, because we've all heard the expression, it takes a community to raise a child, but at the same time, it really requires a community to look after our seniors as well.
It does.
And the very fact that somebody can call, and even if ultimately, because I know both of you, and you're generous with your time, so even if somebody says at the end of the day, I can't do this, or I'm not ready to do this, or whatever, it's not like, well, you're wasting my time.
Never.
You guys really don't mind being a resource, and that's what I really feel like sets you apart. And in fact, it was joking with you, Barb McIntyre, during the break. You said, well, I'm not really, you do so many other things in the community that it's just that you have decades of experience in this. And so your point is that like, you're not a timeshare salesperson like, I need to close on you today because I'll never see you again. You just really want to share the information. So before
Right.
we switch gears, Traci, I just want, if somebody has questions, wants to learn more about things that might help them at home, how do they reach you?
The phone number is 321-392-3400. And they can call anytime. Typically my son answers the phone. He is the scheduler and the office manager. And he has also learned to be a great resource for people.
Right.
Many of them just call and ask questions. And he's gotten very good at learning and knowing those answers to help guide people in the right direction. So it's, we're there. And I do know that people sometimes tell me, well, they're apprehensive about calling or having me come talk to them because they are afraid it's going to create some kind of obligation. Or they don't want to sign the paperwork when I do come because, it might create some kind of obligation for them. And I say to them, the only thing signing my paperwork today does is prevent me from coming back to get a signature. Mm-hmm. If you don't call me, you will never hear from me.
Yeah.
I will shred your paperwork and you will never hear from me. I will never call to say, hey, how come you haven't called? I will never do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's just how I believe in doing things.
Well, it's where your heart's at. You're there to try to help somebody along, and I've seen that too, Barbara McIntyre, with you and the work that you do. You've been very free with your time. I've seen you talk to people, say, no, this is not the right product for you.
Yep,
and what
I've
you're
done
trying
that
to do.
too, and I love partnering with Traci because I know our business, how we handle our business, is exactly the same way. So Traci brought up such a good point earlier. I'm not even going to give you my phone number. I'm going to give you my website.
Oh, yeah.
You'll find everything you need there and videos that are going to tell you so much about different product options. So it's reversefunding.com, Barbara-McIntyre. That sounds kind of long, but it's reversefunding.com and then my name, Barbara. And it's not like Barbara Streisand. It's BARBARA hyphen McIntyre, McIntyre.
And I'm going to make sure that I put that down on a piece of paper, and we're going to make sure that gets out on our Facebook page, and we'll connect it to all the information. Because, again, like I mentioned, we're here on the radio every Wednesday, 12 noon to 1 p.m. on 90.3 FM, WEJF. And also, so many people pick this up online. They also pick it up as a podcast later. And so we're going to make sure that we put both Avid Home Care in there so they know how to find your website.
Because we have a website, too.
Right.
We have a Facebook page, but we also have a website.
Right, and we'll do the same with Barb. So all that information will be available to you. But I think it's so important that you avail yourself of the information first, because how can you make a good decision about anything if you don't at least take a look at it? And I realize, none of us like high pressure sales tactics. And that's why I say, I think one of the problems with reverse mortgage is somehow it's gotten that time pressure sales kind of pressure feeling. And maybe people, especially, if Traci comes into my home, now I feel suddenly obligated. And knowing both of you, that's not how you see the world at all.
No,
right, no, not a bit.
And I don't have any desire really to get involved in their finances.
Right.
Really, trust me, I don't have any.
Yeah.
All I want to do is like we said, hand them. These are some options. These are some resources you can explore if you're interested in it. Mm-hmm. You're not in any way obligated, but they still will do what they do.
Actually, these days, most of my conversations with my clients end up being primarily over the telephone anyway.
Yeah.
Right.
Sometimes we do everything over the phone and get on a computer and do some Zoom.
Yeah.
I have to meet people in person because a lot of my clients can't hear on the phone, so it's just easier sometimes.
I still like to go
I say, I'm coming over.
I still like to see folks and sit at the kitchen table, but oftentimes we still do a lot of it just sitting sitting on computers and talking on the phone. So
yeah, it's so important. So again, we're talking with Traci Graf, Avid Home Care, and also with Barbara McIntyre with reverse mortgage funding. And again, we'll make sure those websites are out there. But it was interesting, Tracy, the thing that kind of cued us back to one of the things we wanted to make sure we talked about today, World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, is because I know you've seen firsthand, and we've all heard about these cases where somebody plucks a business card off of, a post office bulletin board or something. Oh, I'll come and help you at home. And they sure helped you right out of your home.
Even worse are the people who are referred by the friend, the aunt's friend, the sister's cousins. It's and I'm not saying they're all bad, because they're not all bad.
No, and that's the problem is you don't know when you pull that business card down or you take that phone number down, and they may think everything's fine, and then what's your recourse when it goes bad is like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know.
There is no recourse when it goes bad.
Right,
there isn't any.
And so you're actually putting,
and it can go really, really bad.
Yeah,
I mean, let's face it.
You're putting yourself in harm's way. So when we talk about elder abuse awareness, a lot of times we think we kind of, maybe our first thought is we jump to like the battered spouse kind of thing, but elder abuse happens in a lot of ways beyond just physical, doesn't it?
The National Center for Elder Abuse says there's 7 kinds. There's physical, sexual, emotional, financial or material exploitation, neglect, abandonment, and self-neglect. The most common one is neglect.
Wow. And who would think, that like I said, we might draw one of those first couple you named, but you wouldn't necessarily think about neglect.
And sadly, what drives the statistics high on the neglect being the most common one is the long-term care facilities.
Wow.
I just hate to say it, but it's true. It really, it's what it is.
Well, the whole point of the World Elder Abuse Awareness Day is this was actually something created by the United Nations many years ago. And so here locally, I don't know if you guys remember Teresa Russell. She was a great friend at DCF for many years. She's retired now, but she kind of put this in motion. And so every year, I try to remember, I'm losing track. It's maybe the 12th or 13th year that they're doing this. But they hold an event, Brevard County, together with the Florida Senior Resource Organizations like us, are hosting World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. And that happens Wednesday, June 15th. So it's basically about a month, give or take, from now, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at the Wickham Park Senior Center. And what we're all out there to do is to share how we are working together to prevent elder abuse and neglect. And it's sort of a call to action about all this, because the statistics that they quote is very widespread. Every year, they say 1 in 10 older Americans are victims of either elder abuse, neglect, or exploitation, and they believe it's significantly underreported. They suggest that as few of, and this statistic is kind of shocking, 1 in 14 cases, only 1 in 14 cases
are reported.
So,
I'll tell you one of the. There's a couple reasons why that is.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is what I said, is that a lot of these people, there's no one to report it. There's no one to report it.
Right.
I mean, it's just that
especially
simple.
if it's neglect, right?
Right. I mean, there's just nobody to report it, and even self-neglect.
Yeah.
I mean, people who don't have family, don't have neighbors who are involved, or live on a property that's sort of remote, they could be living there by themselves in absolute filth and decay for a very long time. Without anybody knowing it.
Well, for sure, I can tell.
But the other problem is that a lot of them, they're afraid to report it. They're afraid of what does that mean? If I report it, it means that I can't take care of myself. I can't be trusted. If I've been scammed out of money and I let my kids know, or I go to the police, is everybody going to try to get involved and take over my finances because I'm not responsible or I'm not capable? And so no matter what we do, those factors are involved in why people are not reporting it.
Yeah. Well, and then a lot of times I've heard from a lot of different sources that a lot of times the abuse is happening inside the family. So there's also that dynamic.
Yes.
They don't want to rat out the kid, or
they don't.
Yeah.
And I say in the article that we were talking about, a lot of times nurses, you have to play a detective.
Yeah.
And try to figure out what's going on. Being a home care nurse gives you a little bit of an advantage because you are in the home. You do see the family dynamic sometimes. Sometimes it's not good.
Yeah. And I think that's the point. It's kind of like, they used to tell us about different stuff. If you see something, say something. And we did a program, a TV program, because, helping seniors, we do television, we do radio, we do the print. And every day, in fact, 3 times a day, we broadcast on Space Coast Government TV. You guys we've done shows together, and Joe has done shows with you guys. And one of the programs that we did maybe a couple of years ago with Teresa Russell when she was with DCF was literally when to call the adult abuse hotline. And she goes through some points like, if you just kind of see something, say something. But the other thing that was very interesting for me, never having personally been involved in that side of it, she said, she allayed a lot of the fears that people have, like, oh, DCF is going to come and put me away someplace or something like that. And that is not, she said, that's not the role that they're doing. All they want to do is be sure that you're safe at home and try to find ways to make, tries to ensure that that's happening. And so that particular TV program, when to call the adult abuse awareness, you can go to our website and just, there's a search box. You could type that in, when to call adult abuse. Really some good tips there. But again, what you guys are talking about in this is that's the point of the Awareness Day, is to let people know that this is happening, and much more frequently than people might imagine.
It is. And I know that I'm going to say something that might be considered a little controversial.
That was a good disclaimer.
Sorry.
Okay, can't wait to hear this.
I think I'm known for it. But I will say honestly that in reporting people in the past to DCF for abuse, I have seen a much different response on people who are financially well off than people who are not.
Wow.
And I find that very disturbing because I recently saw a client be manipulated out of a larger amount of money than I ever thought that I even thought he had.
Wow.
So it was a shocker in multiple ways, and it was all manipulation, and DCF had been notified, and to my knowledge, they didn't respond. And I had actually made that, and that was one client in the last 2 years. I had actually made that call myself.
Wow.
Which means I put my name on the
report,
on the protective services call, which means they're supposed to respond in 24 hours, and nobody responded.
Well, I am sorry to hear that. I know one of the things is we get a newsletter from Phil Archer. He's our state attorney in the area, and he's very big on trying to keep up with scams and things like that. And I remember he came out and spoke at a Golden Providers meeting. It was just before COVID hit, I think. But it was really interesting because he was talking about the fear factor, the embarrassment factor, and people don't really want to talk about it. But then the flip side of it was, and he was very upfront about this, he said it's very, very, very difficult to prosecute these cases because just what you're explaining when you're talking about manipulation, it's very hard to get in there and try to prove that in a court of law.
And many times that's a matter of opinion.
Right.
Or the client has already passed and you're trying to prove that at the time these conversations were taking place, that they were not cognitively aware of what they were doing, and that's not easy to do.
No, and so that's why Phil said, my response, and he was talking about, he held up in the meeting, he held up a cashier's check for $100,000, and he said, this was sent to me. He said, I'm the state attorney, I can't prosecute this because, and so that's why he's so passionate about. We got to prevent this before it happens. And I think that's what the whole point of this World Elder Abuse Awareness Day is. The first step, if you won't talk about the problem, you're never going to confront it. If you won't confront it, you're never going to even talk about a way to solve it, right?
Well, it's one of the reasons why I talk all the time about the risks that people take of bringing people into their home.
Yeah.
To take care of them. And that there really isn't, there, as I say all the time, there are agencies to meet every need that you have at this point.
Right.
I have people who live in mobile homes, and they need more care, but they can get by with an hour twice a day or an hour once a day or a couple hours 3 times a week. They can get by.
Right.
And they can be okay with that. And we're okay helping them because I believe they also deserve
absolutely
the same type of professional care that my clients who live in huge mansions on the river get. That's how I feel about it. So I just don't really understand why the risk continues to happen but it does, and it's obviously something we're never going to completely get rid of.
No, but that's why raising the awareness on this is so important. So again, please put this date on your calendar, June 15th. You'll find Helping Seniors will be out there. We'll be out there June 15th at the Wickham Park Pavilion. It's that great outdoor spot right there. Everybody, we've done a senior fair there recently. It was so much fun. Everybody just enjoys being in the good outdoors, and it's covered so you're not out in the hot sun, and it's just a pleasant place to do this and come out and learn what services and things are available. So it's June 15th. That's a Wednesday, 9 a.m. to 12 noon. And we're going to leave it there because I need to save a moment for the fundraising part of our talk, but it's a fun part of the talk because we get to talk about the Helping Seniors car raffle. We are moving into full swing on that. The other date, while you got that pencil out, we talked about June 15th for the WEJF Fair. They call it World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. We're also going to talk about October 29th because that's the fun night at the American Muscle Car Museum. That is when somebody picks up keys to a brand new 2022 Camaro, Challenger, Kia Sportage, like the fellow did last year, or even a Mazda Miata convertible. Ooh. And all you got to do is get a Helping Seniors car raffle ticket, one for $25, 5 for $100. We pull your ticket, you have a new car. It's really that simple. And you're supporting the work of Helping Seniors. And while you don't have to be present to win, if you're in town, your ticket is also admit one to Mark Pylock's amazing American Muscle Car Museum. So how do you get a ticket? You can call Nancy, 321-473-7770, or you can go to helpingseniors.carraffle.com. And you guys have tickets, right?
I've got mine.
I think I have mine already.
And you can help people. We'll make sure you guys have enough so you can help get tickets out to everybody. So Traci Graf, Avid Home Care, and Barb McIntyre, Reverse Mortgage Funding. Thanks for being with us today, and thank you, listener, for joining us on today's Helping Seniors radio program. We'll see you next week.